Most people don't realise your ears don't just hear sound. They shape it, they adapt to it, and sometimes they even lie to you. And this trickery can sabotage every mix you make. Coaching countless mixers, I see the same ear tricks mess up their tracks no matter what their experience level. So in this video, I'm going to show you how your ears adapt, mislead, and sabotage your mixers, and reveal 4 ways to outsmart them for good. First, we need to understand how our ears work. You know that thing when you walk out of a movie theatre into the street on a bright sunny day, your eyes quickly adjust. And your ears work the same way. Unlike a microphone that has a diaphragm inside that moves in sympathy with sound waves, our ears don't work like that. Our ears and brain interpret sound, not reproduce it. And our interpretation changes with loudness, frequency, dynamics, and exposure time. So accept that your decisions are shaped by perception and not by raw audio. So what exactly is happening in our ears to shape this interpretation? You know when you're cooking up a storm in the kitchen, you've got all the rings on the go, you're boiling, you're frying, and then all of a sudden the smoke alarm kicks in and you have to make a mad scramble to find a stool or something to stand on, to climb up and rip the cover off and pull the battery out. And your ears are just screaming for it to stop. Yeah, maybe that's just me. Sorry, it's a daily battle I have to go through every time I cook a meal. In that moment, your ears are adapting. And after turning down the volume to protect themselves, it takes a minute for your ears to get back to normal. And you can hear that. You can almost feel it. And you can hear them opening up again. You see, the ear adapts to sound like a compressor. There's a collection of mechanisms inside the middle ear that together ensure the ear can naturally compress sound and prevent damage, just like the threshold and ratio concept inside compressors. In our ears, the release time is really slow. So why does this matter in a studio environment? This compression in the ear means that loud monitoring sessions automatically get damped acoustically, especially transients, making mixes sound less dynamic than they really are at lower levels or on other systems. Loud sounds soften and faint sounds are pulled up. So what you mustn't do is chase your levels by turning up your monitors all the time. So what should you do? Step 1. Work at a fixed reference level, but briefly check at low and high levels for balance and impact. Later I'll show you my quick and dirty version of how to do this. Step 2. Take breaks often. Yes, that old chestnut, but I mean it. Take breaks often. Step 3. Be cautious with compression decisions right after you change monitoring level or after a long mixing session. Give your ears time to adapt. Take a minute. And then make sure you listen in context. When I recognise my ears are perhaps in that compressed state, I interpret that as them being tired. And so what that means to me is, in order to keep the context of the mix, I have to listen across what I've been working on for a longer stretch of time. So avoid sort of listening in loops to the same few bars. Listen from a few bars before that and carry on listening for a few bars after that. And that usually helps me make better decisions with tired ears. Which brings us to the next big problem. Loudness and dynamics aren't the only thing that change how you interpret sounds. Your internal frequency balance shifts as well. So how do we deal with that? When I was at the Maida Vale studios, every control room had a small Fostex speaker for checking the mid-range. In my early days, I'm sorry to say I ignored it. I thought I could just trust the studio monitors. And then a couple of my mixes went out on air. Embarrassingly, the vocals were loud and the snare was harsh. And the whole balance was not how I remembered it being in the studio. So how did this happen? Well, It's because our ears don't hear all frequencies equally at all volumes. What sounds balanced loud can fall apart at normal levels. So the question is, how do you stop your ears from tricking you the same way? At low listening levels, the mids are forward and the lows and highs seem weaker. At high listening levels, the lows and highs feel boosted, but the mids stay the same. Here's how to ensure your mids will not embarrass you like they did me in a few simple steps. Step 1, set yourself up with a single speaker. Importantly, with no hyped bass boost. So something like an old 80s boombox you've picked up from a car boot sale, or an Auratone speaker, or a cheap Bluetooth speaker. It's important, really important, that it's got no big sort of bass boost to it. Step 2, send your mix to it and listen at whisper level, paying particular attention to the vocal and the snare levels. Step 3, adjust the levels in the DAW whilst listening to this speaker. Step 4, go back to your studio monitors to check the balance at your main monitoring level. At the BBC, we all mixed to a fixed reference level on our meters. We had to do this to comply with broadcasting standards. We also had an SPL meter somewhere always visible that would flash at 85 and at 90 dBs from memory. The idea is, by using both fixed monitoring and mix levels, your brain always has a stable reference for what's loud and what's quiet, so you can make better judgments about relative volume, EQ and dynamics. It'll also train your ears to recognise what good EQ and dynamics actually sound like. So here's the quick and dirty method to set this up for yourself. The first step is to choose the level you want to mix to. Now this depends on your circumstances. I personally like to aim for an average of minus 14 dB, and I measure that on a VU meter. Next, you want to choose your loudest monitoring level using an SPL meter. Set the meter to C weighting and a slow response time. And whilst listening to music and looking at the meter, set your monitoring so that the mix is pretty loud, but gives you a good representation of how hard the low end is hitting. Mark this level on your monitor controller. Step 3 then is to find your everyday main monitoring level in the same way. So you're going to be turning your monitoring down a little bit to find that real sort of comfortable sweet spot where you feel you're going to be able to listen for extended periods and not tire your ears out too quickly. Once you find this level, mark it on your monitor controller. The final step is to set your dim level in your interface settings menu to reflect whisper levels. With those 3 levels set, make a conscious effort to never drift from those levels. For me, what I do is I have my loud level that I very occasionally listen to at the end of a mix to check my low end basically and the highs. Then I have my normal listening level, and the dim level I've chosen minus 26 there. Now that's not quite whisper quiet as I would describe it, because whisper quiet, the way I choose to listen to that is through my Fostex small mini speaker here on the desk. That's where I do the real whisper listening, which was the equivalent to setting the dim amount here to minus 34. I don't know if those numbers will help you set yours at home, but that is the perfect level for checking the relative level of the snare and the vocal in a mix, in my opinion. So that sort of level, that's what my Fostex speaker is going to do. But in regular everyday monitoring, if I want to dim the monitors, I'll hit the dim button on my interface rather than turning the dial. Okay? I appreciate this is all fairly subjective, but I did say it was my quick and dirty method. There is a much more accurate way to do this. It has a few more steps and it involves using pink noise, and I encourage you to check that out, and I'll leave a link in the description to a video that shows you that particular method in much more detail. Now you've got 3 set levels on your monitor controller that you can go between and trust to create mixes that will translate and make your mixing decisions more accurate with less faffing around. But even when you get your monitoring levels right, your brain can still trick you another really sneaky way. We've all done it, thinking I was making great progress with EQ until I noticed the plugin was in bypass. But in that moment, I could really hear the changes. The snare got brighter, the vocal sat better, the kick had more punch, and it was all in my head. And I know you've done it as well, so don't judge. My brain convinced me it was happening because I expected it to. This is what psychologists call expectation bias. When you believe something is changing, your brain often fills in the blanks using past experiences, knowledge, and context to convince you it's real. So how do you deal with that one? Well, first, you've always got to A/B with the bypass button. Don't assume, always check. Second, don't stay zoomed in on one thing forever. Pull back to the whole mix regularly so your decisions are based in context. The bypass trap is funny when you catch it, but it's dangerous if you don't. Once you understand that your brain can invent changes that aren't there, you'll never fully trust your ears again without checking. And that's a good thing because it keeps you honest and helps your mixers actually improve. Now that you understand how your ears can trick you and how to stop them, the next thing is to apply that awareness when shaping your mixers. Because even with your monitoring sorted, EQ can still feel like guesswork if you're not sure what to listen for on each instrument. I've put together a playlist that walks you through EQ moves for kick, bass guitar, electric guitars, piano, and more. And if you want deeper insights like this every week, the kind that I only share with my email subscribers, then make sure you sign up to my newsletter. You'll get exclusive tips, stories, and frameworks that don't appear anywhere else. That's all from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.